Hello everybody, my name is Andrew Trolson, and I'm here to give you a quick overview of what to expect in the complete LINQ course. The objectives of the course, we begin by going through a detailed examination of all these language features that make LINQ possible. For example, we'll be talking about implicit typing, extension methods, anonymous types. We'll also be talking about object initialization syntax. We'll talk about lambda expressions. You've probably seen lambda expressions in code before, and maybe you weren't quite sure what they're doing. Well, they're basically just a shorthand notation for working with delegates. So we'll make sure everyone feels really comfortable with lambdas. After we get the core language features out of the way, then it's time to get down to LINQ study. So we're going to be surveying the various ways that we can use LINQ. And we begin with a discussion of LINQ to objects. And that just basically means that you're applying your LINQ queries to in-memory object collections. And that can make it really easy to extract out subsets of data from a list of objects, for example, or even a basic array. During this discussion, we'll see how we can incorporate LINQ into a bunch of very common things that we do every day, like file I/O or reflection services. Throughout that whole lesson, and throughout all the chapters coming forward, we'll be learning about building LINQ queries, and you'll see a couple of different ways to do so. We can make use of the core LINQ operations with all the query operators, but we can also make use of that lower level programming model. We'll be talking about LINQ to XML, and that's where we start to apply the LINQ queries that we're creating to a XML document. And you'll find during this chapter that we can use LINQ to XML just as a far easier way to manipulate XML in general, even if you're not using LINQ proper. We're also going to be covering something called XML literal syntax, which is exclusive to Visual Basic. Now, even if you're a hardcore C# person, I typically find when I teach this that even the C# people look at Visual Basic and kind of think, yeah, that's pretty good. I might want to use Visual Basic more than I thought. Basically, what literal syntax allows us to do in Visual Basic is just literally type out XML code in a VB code file, and the compiler generates the underlying object model. We're also going to talk about some new features that were introduced in .NET 4.0, including the task parallel library and parallel LINQ. Both of these services allow us to execute queries and perform tasks in parallel. Think of it as a kind of a new spin on multi-threaded programming. And then, of course, we'll be talking about how we can apply LINQ queries to relational database atoms, in particular the entity framework. Now, when it comes to the prereqs for the course, please understand that this is an intensive programming class. So we assume that people are already feeling real comfortable with C# or Visual Basic. We assume people feel very comfortable using Visual Studio, as well as working with core .NET programming techniques, like how to configure an assembly, or how to import an assembly and reference a namespace. The actual delivery of the course, it always kind of varies per class, but using some rough estimates, you can probably expect about maybe 60% of your time devoted to lecture and demo, and about 40% to lab time. But those numbers can always differ. It's just based on the pace of the course. We do provide solutions for all the lab work, so that's always yours to keep to archive after the fact. Here's a breakdown on what we're going to be doing on a chapter-by-chapter basis. As mentioned, Chapter 1 kind of just looks at all the key language features that C# and VB support to make LINQ possible. And then we go through chapter by chapter, examining each one of these core LINQ APIs. Of course, every single lab or every single chapter will have multiple labs to test out the concepts. When it comes to the environment that you need to attend the class, it's real simple. As long as you have Visual Studio 2010, you have everything that you need to do all the lab work. There's no need for any fancy database installations or web installations. We can get all of our work done just with a basic install of Visual Studio 2010. So that's a really quick overview of what to expect in the complete LINQ class. Hope to see you there.